He whisper of silence hung like a thick fog inside the sprawling headquarters of the powerful Hanover Corporation, as if the gleaming glass walls and polished marble floors understood and mirrored one little boy's world of quiet. 10-year-old Lucas Hanover lived in that silence, trapped in it, unable to speak, unable to hear the sound of his own name or the voice of the father who would have given anything to hear him say just one word. His father, Richard Hanover, was a billionaire CEO known for his sharp suits, sharper decisions, and an empire built on innovation and control. But all his wealth, influence, and brilliance could not break through the barrier that separated him from his son. Lucas's world was made of gestures, expressions, and isolated thoughts. His father's world was built on ambition, noise, and the constant rush of expectations. They lived under the same roof, yet remained oceans apart. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, miracles, second chances, and the power of the human heart, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, comment, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Now, let's continue. Lucas was brought to the office daily because Richard believed that exposing him to the environment of success might somehow inspire change. He never spoke it aloud, but he secretly hoped someone, something, anything would unlock his son from this lifelong silence. Therapists, specialists, speech experts, doctors, they had all tried. Richard had flown them in from around the world. They had tried music therapy, sign language immersion, surgeries, hearing devices, behavioral exercises. Every path ended the same way. Lucas stared quietly, observant, intelligent, yet mute, seemingly unmoved by the world around him. As days turned to months, Lucas drifted through the office like a ghost child. Some employees smiled at him sympathetically. Others ignored him. Richard monitored everything from a distance, too busy, too burdened by hope and disappointment, too afraid to sit and face the silence full on. He loved his son more than anything, but he didn't know how to reach him. A father desperate for connection and a child trapped behind unbreakable walls. One ordinary morning, a small change rippled through the building. A new janitor arrived. His name was Matteo. He was quiet, older, perhaps in his late 50s, with kind eyes that held a lifetime of stories. His clothes smelled faintly of dust and old books, as though he had been a caretaker not only of buildings, but of memories. What made him distinct was not his job or his slow, careful movement, but the tune he hummed under his breath as he worked. It wasn't loud, but soft and rhythmic. Something like a heartbeat turned into music. Most people barely paid attention, brushing past him as they hurried to meetings and deadlines. But Lucas heard something, not physically, but in a way he could not explain. Lucas's eyes would follow Matteo's hands as he cleaned the floors, wiped the windows, and pushed his heavy cart. There was grace in his movement, as though every action had meaning. And that hum, steady and warm, seemed to draw the boy closer day by day, though he could not hear it. Lucas could feel it. Something about the man's presence softened the air, made the silence feel less heavy. One afternoon, while Richard argued with investors behind closed doors, Lucas wandered to the ground floor lobby, where Matteo was polishing the large corporate emblem. The sunlight streamed in through the glass, catching particles of dust like glitter floating in the air. Lucas approached slowly, watching Matteo's wrists swirl in circles, carrying a cloth back and forth like a painter finishing his masterpiece. Without looking up, the janitor began waving his fingers in the air, not random movement, but controlled rhythmic signs. He seemed to be signing to himself. Lucas froze, his eyes widened. He recognized some of the shapes. They were part of basic sign language, something his therapist forced him to learn, something he had grown tired of. But this was different. The signs were fluid, expressive, almost poetic. Lucas, enthralled, sat down beside Matteo. The janitor finally looked at him, smiled, and began signing again, slower this time. He signed words of greeting, signs that felt like questions, and then signs that resembled a story. He spoke without sound, letting his hands draw a motion in the air. Lucas watched intently, his heart pounding like he was hearing something for the first time. He lifted his own hands, uncertainly mimicking pieces of what Matteo showed him. Matteo nodded and continued, guiding him carefully, patiently, as if time itself had slowed. From that day forward, Lucas searched for Matteo every morning. The janitor taught him not just to sign, but to express. He showed him how sign language could be music, emotion, voice. He told stories through motion, tales of the sea with fluid waves of fingers, tales of storms with sharp flicks of the wrist, and tales of laughter with soft tapping movements. Lucas absorbed everything, his eyes glowing with curiosity, his hands growing more confident. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel trapped. He didn't feel broken. He felt heard. As the days passed, the bond grew deeper. The boy whom everyone thought silent began communicating with his hands like they were wings lifting him out of silence. But no one saw this transformation. Not his father, not the employees, no one. Lucas still stayed quiet around others, but with Mateo he blossomed. Everything changed on a stormy evening. Rain hammered against the glass building, thunder rumbled like distant drums. A power outage struck, plunging the headquarters into darkness except for emergency lights. Employees panicked, phones buzzed, voices rose. In the chaos, Richard realized he couldn't find Lucas. The boy had slipped away during the commotion. Richard's chest tightened, fear clawing at him. He sprinted through hallways, yelling his son's name into silence, knowing Lucas could not hear him. Then he turned a corner. There, illuminated by a single dim emergency light, were Lucas and Mateo sitting on the floor, calm, peaceful, facing each other. Mateo's hands moved like flowing shadows as he signed. Lucas signed back, fluently, expressively, emotionally. Richard froze, mesmerized. He saw something he never imagined. Lucas's face wasn't blank or distant, it glowed with life. He wasn't withdrawn, he was communicating. Not merely copying signs, but speaking with his entire being. Richard stepped closer, eyes stinging, throat tight, unsure whether to interrupt. Then Lucas looked at him. The boy hesitated only a moment before his small hands lifted. He signed something toward his father. The signs were simple but carried the weight of years of longing. Lucas signed, "I love you." It wasn't a voice, but to Richard, it was louder than anything he had ever heard in his life. Tears streamed down the CEO's face, something no stock market crash or corporate scandal had ever caused. He knelt and wrapped his arms around his son, holding him close, trembling, whispering words Lucas couldn't hear but could feel in the shaking of his father's chest. For the first time, they understood one another. Richard looked up at Mateo, and in that moment, the janitor wasn't just a cleaner of floors. He was a bridge, a savior of silence, a teacher of language beyond words. Richard thanked him, unable to express enough gratitude. Mateo just nodded with a sad, knowing smile, as if he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. In the days that followed, the company changed. Richard implemented new programs for differently abled employees and children, giving jobs to people society overlooked. Sign language classes became mandatory for staff. The CEO himself learned alongside his son, struggling at first, laughing sometimes, and slowly becoming fluent, not just in signing, but in understanding what true communication meant. He also discovered that Mateo had once been a teacher at a special school for children with disabilities. But after funding cuts and tragedy, he had lost everything. Yet even in a janitor's uniform, he continued to change lives, one quiet gesture at a time. Lucas grew stronger, confident, social. He didn't speak with his voice, but his hands painted emotions in the air, and they were beautiful. And Richard no longer wished to hear his son speak aloud. He learned to listen in different ways. Sometimes, the greatest miracles are not loud. They do not come with applause or noise. Sometimes they bloom quietly in the corners of life, taught by people who aren't seen as important, yet carry wisdom deeper than words. If this story moved you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help us spread messages of hope, love, and humanity. Your support helps us continue bringing real and inspiring stories to light. Before we end, tell us in the comments, do you believe kindness can change someone's entire life? In the golden silence of their new life, Lucas and Richard discovered that love does not always need sound. Some of the most powerful voices are spoken without a single word.